Welcome to Virginia's Ghosts and Legends. This list of 10 is part of a playlist of gentle listening spooky collections from across the USA. The screen fades to black so you can enjoy the stories without distractions if relaxing, studying or wanting to sleep. Please do consider a like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. First is Staunton Train Depot in Staunton. War, fires, derailed trains, the Staunton Train Depot has been the site of several tragic events. The station's ghosts include Civil War soldiers and victims of multiple train crashes. One ghost that's often spotted around the depot is D.C. McClory, a Confederate soldier who was struck and killed by a train at the station in 1861. It's said that he was too drunk to see where he was going. Today he continues to stumble along the tracks. In 1864, a man set light to the station depot and destroyed it. He was a military gentleman, General Hunter, who hoped to cut off supplies and communications for the enemy in the Civil War, and, in the process of his destruction, several people died. After the South surrendered to the North in 1865, the town of Staunton began to slowly recover. A new train depot was erected, but it was again soon demolished, this time by a runaway train. In 1890, that out-of-control train tore through the depot, destroying the building completely. Pieces of the station punched through train windows and toppled over an entire sleeper car. Unfortunately, Myrtle Ruth Knox, a 17-year-old girl, was in that sleeper car and was killed. The apparition of Knox, dressed in a nightgown, has been seen wandering around the station's platform. Her spirit is also known for pulling at the hairs of female travellers. At number 2 is the Ferry Plantation House in Virginia Beach. Ferry Farm and Plantation was built in the 1600s and was named after Norfolk County's first ferry service, which used to stop at the plantation as it ran up and down the Lynnhaven River. A bit of trivia is that a cannon would be fired to signal the ferry to stop. 11 ghosts are believed to haunt the colonial plantation. Of those, here are 3 with names attached to them. One of them can be found in the old haunted house, a woman called the Lady in White, who died after falling down a flight of stairs. Next, on the grounds, visitors have spotted the spirit of Henry, a slave of the plantation. And in 1706, there was an infamous trial by dunking of Grace Sherwood, aka the Witch of Pungo, that was held near the plantation. Grace was wrongly accused of causing the miscarriage of a local woman. Whenever there's a full moon, people see her spirit emerge, sopping wet from the banks of the Lynnhaven River. Third on our list is the Exchange Hotel Civil War Medical Museum in Gordonsville. The hotel was built in 1859 and spent its early years as a popular place to stay for weary train passengers. Then, in 1862, it was converted into a Civil War receiving hospital for casualties of the fighting. Over 23,000 sick and wounded soldiers were shuttled in and out of the building. Of those, around 700 died from their wounds and were buried at the hotel. That may explain why nearly 80 recorded, unexplained incidents have been reported. One of the museum's ghosts is believed to be a young man who worked there during the Civil War. The hospital's depressing environment is said to have driven him to commit suicide. At number 4 is the Edgewood Plantation in Charles City. The Edgewood Plantation is now a bed and breakfast. It has a charming but misleading veneer. During the Civil War, much violence and bloodshed took place there, which has led to guests of the haunted inn frequently spotting dead soldiers roaming around its grounds. The B&B has a room named after its most famous ghost, Lizzie. She's said to have been the fiancée of a soldier who never made it home from the battlefield. Halfway through the list we have the public jail in Williamsburg. This 2-story brick prison has housed everyone from murderers to pirates, and the jail's inmates during the colonial times included some of the most vicious of individuals. For example, 15 henchmen of the infamous pirate Blackbeard were incarcerated there. Conditions at the jail were as bad as its occupants. Picture freezing cells, terrible food, and widespread typhus. Visitors have seen shackles move on their own and heard screams coming from cells while touring the prison, making it one of the scariest places in Virginia. At number 6, we stay in Williamsburg for the Fort Magruder Hotel. You might want to book a room at the Fort Magruder if you're looking for a unique and scary night in Virginia, because the property lies where the epic and bloody Civil War Battle of Williamsburg took place. Guests of the haunted hotel report seeing Civil War soldiers in their rooms. One guest told of a time when she was woken up abruptly by a red-headed Confederate soldier who was perched on her bed. Housekeepers have experienced many strange happenings while working and will play a guessing game when interacting with guests at the hotel of who's alive and who's pretending. Such is the realism of the spirits when seen. At spot number 7 is Salubria Manor in Stevensburg. This stately Georgian-style house is said to be one of Culpeper County's most haunted places. The manor's ghosts have become more active than ever, and the reason is thought to be because of a recent earthquake. The apparition of Lady Spotswood has been seen, who is the wife of the manor's first owner, and Mrs. Hansborough, a woman who is said to have hung herself in one of the bedrooms. The mansion also has 2 cemeteries where spirits have also been seen. At number 8 is St Albans Sanatorium in Radford. This insane asylum's spooky history began before it was even built. The land on which it stands was where a bloody massacre occurred. In 1755, the colonists of Draper's Meadow were attacked by a group of Shawnee Native Americans. Those who weren't killed were taken as hostages. St Albans Sanatorium was built in 1892, but first functioned as a boys' school, where bullying and homicide were not uncommon. Then, the building became a psychiatric hospital in 1916. It suffered the unfortunately common problem of badly thought-out treatments. From insulin-induced comas to lobotomies, there were several methods that were often more deadly than conducive to healing. Plenty of creepy instruments and old gurneys lie rusting in the hospital today, easily making it one of the scariest places in Virginia. Most visitors immediately experience the feeling of depression and unease when inside the building. Others report seeing the spirits of 2 young females roaming the basement. For number 9, we go to the Peyton-Randolph House in Williamsburg. The Peyton-Randolph House is a 2-story Georgian-style mansion built in 1715 by Sir William Robertson. It passed into the hands of Peyton-Randolph, a famous revolutionary leader, in 1754. Behind the house's impeccable design lurks plenty of misery and pain, mostly because Peyton's wife, Betty, was known to be a very cruel slave master. One of her slaves, Eve, is said to have placed a terrible curse on the house. Perhaps that's why many people have died at the mansion from freak accidents, murder, and mysterious illnesses. Besides seeing and hearing ghosts, ghosts have attacked people. A security guard, for example, became trapped in the house's basement by an angry force, unable to get out. Finally, and to end with, a bit of an odd one, with the Major Graham Mansion in Wythe County. The Major Graham Mansion was built in 1826 by a wealthy businessman. Perhaps he didn't know, or perhaps he knew full well, but the land he built his house on had been the scene of a murder in the 1700s. Joseph Baker had been murdered by 2 of his slaves there. The bizarre part to that murder is that his grisly remains were found in a barrel of moonshine. Major Graham's wife, Martha, also died on the property. She was a depressed woman who eventually went insane. Her husband, unable to handle her emotions, is said to have shackled her in the basement. Martha is among the various ghosts that tourists encounter during the manor's popular Halloween event. Thank you for joining me on this little journey, from plenty of Civil War spirits to lonely jail cells. Virginia certainly has some historical ghosts within the state. I hope you'll be here for the next one. Washington.